it's time to present your story maps. So a couple tips with the story maps. One, remember that you're telling a story. We typically do this, in a PowerPoint form. We'll go through, we'll kind of explain the users and the personas, and then we take them through the stories with the screens associated with them. So we're showing them screen by screen, here's what the user is going to do this, and then the user is going to click on the product, and then from the product they're going to click into the shopping cart. And we have screens to back up that story as we're progressing through. There's other tools that we use specifically for kind of exporting the story after the fact. We use Envision, as I mentioned before. A competitor of theirs is Marvel. And there's a new player on the space which is looking really promising called Overflow, which I can show you guys at the end here. But it's a really great tool to help kind of visualize the user flow. And so you really get to feel how the user is going to be navigating through the application. So I want to just quickly throw a few examples here to show you about how we've kind of done this in practice. So we worked with the recruiting team at Johnson & Johnson to reimagine their candidate experience to be more transparent. The problem that they were having, they had over I think it was 90,000 candidates per year that would come through their door, and they had to turn away 99% of those candidates. And at that scale, just turning down a candidate, if they have a negative experience within the job recruiting process, it can ultimately lead to brand dissatisfaction. And they wanted to really find a way to improve the candidate experience so that they were transparent. So even if they had to say no, they said it in a way that retained them as customers and didn't really kind of jeopardize anything that they had there. So we worked with them and facilitated a story mapping exercise. We captured all their ideas from the stakeholders, and we worked with the users to kind of understand what they wanted. And in this case, we did a fully custom design, and we did it using a crowd concept, which allowed us to present them with 17 different design concepts and then refine those down and combine them to a final 4. What's really cool about this one from our perspective was that in the beginning, when they first had their concept, they weren't really sure whether they wanted it to be more corporate or whether they wanted it to be more gamified and kind of illustrative. And they really learned very quickly through this process and of experimenting and coming up with these concepts that the illustrative and the gamification was just not appropriate, given that we were talking to candidates about their jobs and things. So a little bit of a tangent on this kind of the crowd concepting component of it, but very cool kind of way to still get at the idea that at the end of this, I have a story to tell with visuals that represent what the vision of this product ultimately is. The next example was a laboratory testing team at Kimberly-Clark. They had a laboratory information management system that it was very scientific centered, and they wanted it to be requester centered. So their scientists obviously were very good at using these laboratory information management systems, but when the regular business users needed to request a study be done or do some evaluation on a product, they struggled a lot to use the application because they weren't familiar with the same processes, the same tools, the same types of tests that they could order, and the impact to the science teams if they had to make those requests. So we worked with them as well, facilitated an envisioning workshop to help understand what they wanted to prioritize and how they wanted to go about doing it. And then we worked with them over 3 weeks and presented them with 4 different design concepts that contained over 50 different screens, and showed them kind of how they're going to go through this process of managing these requests from a requester-centered point of view.